how were you supposed to know? Because it wasn't a priority for survival at that point. This was very bottom of the list. After everything else was done, there was just no other time. So maybe it's just not important to you. Maybe it's not, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be important to you. It doesn't have to be something that you do. I mean, it can just be what it is. As long as you can find what you need, or as long as it's working for you and your family, by no means am I saying this is how everybody has to live. That would be completely unrealistic. Welcome to Spaces Organized and Styled, the podcast, where we dive in deeper, not just into organizing our things, but the emotions that go along with them. I'm Caitlin Adkins, your host, life coach, professional organizer, NLP practitioner, and EFT practitioner. If you want to remove the roadblocks that are keeping you from reaching your desired goal, success, and fulfillment, then you are in the right spot. Thank you so much for joining me, and now let's get into it. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Spaces Organized and Styled. My name is Caitlin Adkins, and I am the owner and founder of Spaces Organized and Styled. We are a professional organizing company that helps our clients get organized and decluttered in a holistic approach. And today's episode, well, first, if you are listening to this on Apple Podcast or Spotify or on some audio version, this is actually being recorded, so feel free. You can come and watch me as I'm talking about this episode. I will say that I am coming off on the back end of recording an earlier podcast earlier today. So I always find it interesting when I get people telling me, oh, I listened to your podcast that you posted this week. I have no idea which one that is. I pre-record these things and then they just get submitted to my team and they send them out and schedule them. So I have no idea which one you guys are listening to and in what order, but we carry on. Today's episode is all about how I find people get disorganized or cluttered, or how it is that they get to a point where they need a professional organizer to kind of come in and help them get uncluttered and organized and all of the things that go along with that. So here are my 5 reasons. Now, this isn't everything, but this is just everything that I felt like really sharing today. My 5 reasons why it is that most people tend to be disorganized or cluttered. The first one is this fast fashion industry that we are finding ourselves in now. It is so easy for companies, and I won't say their names, but you know which ones I'm talking about, that you can go online, you could go on their app, and you can find fast fashion really quick. Now, I don't have to be the one to tell you just how harmful fast fashion is to the environment. You can Google it, you can do your research. There is, fact check me, but I feel like I've seen that there is a place where all of the clothing and fabric goes to live. It's like a big mound, and it can actually be seen from space because of just how much volume we are using and how much it is that we are just going through the stuff so quickly. So fast fashion definitely plays an important aspect into this. And I cannot tell you how many times it is that I go into a client's home and they just have an abundance of clothes. And that's, you can have however many pieces of clothing that you want to have. It's not about limiting yourself, but it is about maybe making some smaller decisions about picking quantity over quality. So we all know about the little black dress. We all know that that's like the coveted, sought after piece for a woman to have in their wardrobe. Well, once we find that piece, that's pretty much all we need. That is the signature cocktail little black dress that every woman needs to have. It's a staple piece, a good pair of jeans, those kind of cornerstone bases that every person needs in the wardrobe. And then after that, it's all just kind of extra on the cake. And if we add in so much, we can't use it. We can't getting the full value out of it. And you end up just finding it's wasted space, it's wasted money, it's taking up extra room in your house, which you then have to purchase more hangers for or storage for, whatever it is. So there's an additional cost added to it. It's nice that it's got a small price tag at the beginning of it, but it adds up fairly quickly. So fast fashion is definitely a way that most people become very quickly disorganized and cluttered. In fact, without giving away information, I had a client session about a week or so ago, and we were working in a space and she was just overwhelmed with her bedroom. And it wasn't an inviting, relaxing, peaceful, restful, rejuvenating, all of the R's that you can have in your bedroom. And this is something that I tell my clients all the time, is that you just want your bedroom just to be a sanctuary, to be a place of respite from the rest of the world that you can kind of go to, decompress, kind of rewind, and just get down to a really good, even just your sleep. And what I often find is that clients have packed so much into their closet and so much into their bedroom that clothes are spilling all over the place. They're spilling out of the dresser, they're on the floor, they're on the chairs, they're everywhere around the bedroom. And the easiest way to do this, to get down to the basics, is just to kind of pare back what you have. I know it sucks, like it's hard to hear this, but it is the truth, and it's the only way that it's ever going to get solved or fixed. And if you are watching this, you can just see all of my dogs just running around me. The other thing that causes disorganization or clutter is all of those quick, small purchases. So in college, or maybe even high school, long time ago, one, I worked at Ann Taylor, which we did this all the time. And two, I worked at Victoria's Secret, and this is like a key one. At Victoria's Secret, I don't really remember what I was doing, but we were told as employees that one of the quickest ways that you can get people to purchase more is to put all of that stuff around the checkout line. If you've ever been to Sephora, you guys know that when you check out, you have to snake around all of the other stuff, all the little travel size stuff, all the little samples that they entice you to purchase on your way out or on your way to the checkout line. I mean, you're standing there anyways. They've only got like one person bringing out a whole line of people. You're looking at all this stuff thinking, hey, this might be interesting. And you are more enticed to purchase those. It's stuff like that. I mean, even if you've never been to Sephora, let's give you another example. You're standing out in the checkout line at the grocery store. We've all, unless you've already switched over to self-checkout, you know what I'm talking about. You go to the checkout line and they have all the magazines and they have all of the snacks and drinks and everything. And then you're like, oh, what's one more? I'll just throw it on the conveyor belt. Those little quick buys. Also, Amazon. Like, we all make very quick, small, seemingly insignificant purchases that add up. They don't just add up financially, they add up like physically. Your physical items add up very, very quickly. And that when you're making those purchases on Amazon, you have to be really diligent. In fact, it's crazy to me what I'm seeing on social media now with this other company that has products, like they've got everything under the sun that they can sell to people, and it is so stupid cheap that, yeah, obviously people are just buying a whole bunch of stuff that they don't need, that they don't know what they're going to do with, that they think is really cool, that's super cheap and is probably going to break in about a month anyways. But all of those small little things add up. And people purchase them and they fill their home with them and they need to be organized and take up storage space, etc., etc., etc. So that is part number 2, is all the quick little buys that we do. The third reason that some people are disorganized or cluttered is because they just weren't taught as a child. And there's nothing wrong with this. Maybe their parents experience, I don't think fast fashion and all of the apps and everything were available back then, but who knows? Maybe your parents went thrifting and bought a bunch of stuff. But maybe it wasn't taught. Maybe it wasn't like a skill that was shown to you, that wasn't made a priority, which is perfectly fine. And in fact, I often find that women, especially women in their seniors, call me and have so much shame around this, embarrassment, guilt. They feel a lot of sense that they should know how to do these things because they're a female and the traditional female roles are in the home, and they just feel like, I never learned this, I don't know how to do this. And that's okay. Like, it's not an innate skill because you are female. This is just, it can be learned, it can be taught. And if you weren't taught as a child, then yeah, how were you supposed to know? So there's nothing wrong with that. But if you find yourself as somebody who's like, I never learned this as a child, look at your parents. What were they like? What did they experience? And maybe think about some of these reasons here, and especially for the next 2 that I'm about to say, and relate those back to your parents and say, okay, I can see how this caused my parents to maybe not teach me these things. So the fourth one being is that it's just not important. Maybe you find organizing and decluttering, or dare I say minimalism, just not important to you. Maybe that's not anything that's a priority. Maybe you've got so much else going on in your life that this is like very bottom of the list. I don't know this from experience, but I can imagine, let's say you grew up in a household where you weren't taught these things. Because maybe your mom was a single mom. Maybe your dad wasn't available. I mean, again, we're getting into very stereotypes here, but she worked 3 jobs and had to go to night school, and you were raised by an older sibling. Then yeah, how were you supposed to know? Because it wasn't a priority for survival at that point. This was very bottom of the list. After everything else was done, there was just no other time. So maybe it's just not important to you. Maybe it's not, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be important to you. It doesn't have to be something that is that you do. I mean, it can just be what it is. As long as you can find what you need, or as long as it's working for you and your family, by no means am I saying this is how everybody has to live. That would be completely unrealistic. All I'm saying is that this is a way of living. This is a way, personally, I have found and I've seen in my clients. It is an easier way. I'm not going to say better. It is an easier way. It's an alternative way. It's an option. It's an option available. And you can choose to decide to organize your home or you can decide not to. It really doesn't matter. And you can decide to keep everything and you can decide to get rid of everything. Again, it doesn't matter. And you can have as much or as little of something as you want. As long as it's fitting and as long as it's working for you, then that's fine. And as long as it's working for the members in your household. The last and final thing that I find to be a reason people are disorganized or cluttered is triggers. Now, what I mean by triggers is it's kind of like my blanket approach to everything else. It could be a brain-based condition. You could have somebody in your household who, or maybe yourself, who has ADD, ADHD, OCD, bipolar, depression, multiple personality disorders, whatever. For me, I would say that could actually probably be a subset of the 6-point, but I would say brain-based conditions. You can also have somebody who just has triggers as an emotional event. I often find people who have gone through something very hellacious, such as, for example, losing a job. I just thought of like having a baby. That's not hellacious, but I just mean that that is a change in your day-to-day activity that could definitely cause you, don't know from experience, but I could definitely see how that could cause you to be disorganized, to be cluttered, to kind of get out of routine. You just have a new person who's in your house. That comes with a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's going to make some disorganization there. Absolutely. You could go through a divorce. You could go through a marriage. Combining households. That's a big deal too. You know, back in the day, people would get married younger. They would also be in their parents' home before they would get married. And then there wasn't a combined collection of stuff jamming into one house. Oftentimes now I've got clients who are recently married and they're like, I don't know how to combine both of our stuff. We both have 2 microwaves and 2 toasters and 2 of everything. And yeah, that's something that we've got to work through. And we don't need duplicates of everything. All of these triggered events, all of these, they're really life events. And there's actually a name for them. What if I have a life transitions? I was like, I've got a certification in this. What is this called? I never think about it anymore because it's just ingrained. But life transitions. Life transitions can absolutely 1000% cause or be the reason for disorganization and clutter and getting out of that routine. So some of these, hopefully, if you're somebody who is experiencing or going through, or maybe you've never felt like you've really felt comfortable in your space or you've never felt organized, I hope that some of these can kind of give you an idea. Maybe it's not anything that you have to act upon today, but maybe next time you're on Amazon or maybe next time you're on one of those websites or you're at the checkout line or you want to purchase a new top for something, maybe just take a minute, just take a pause and say, okay, well, wait a second. Why do I feel like I need these things? And it's that emotion around that it is that I'm really drilling down into deep here at SOS. You feel like you need a new thing. Awesome. But why? Is it to fill a void? Is it to cover up or mask an emotion that we're trying to run away from and hide? Is it because you actually really do need that item? And from my own experience, I had decluttered everything in my house, or everything, and especially with my clothing, and decided that everything that I went forward and purchased was going to be sustainable, organic, was going to be necessary, wasn't going to be something that was just one-off, to the point where I didn't almost have anything left. And I hadn't worn jeans in like 2 years because we're all a little different post-COVID, but I needed new jeans. And I decided the next pair of jeans I wanted to get were going to be something that was going to be good for the environment, because if you're not familiar, denim wash or denim and the process of how they do denim is extremely harmful and toxic. Also, just the fabric on my skin, I wanted it to be clean and organic, because I think it's like 5 seconds on your skin. A product or an item, 5 seconds, that's how long it takes for the chemicals to enter into your bloodstream. That is huge. If you've listened to my previous episodes, the family history I have around cancer, specifically breast cancer, and so anything that I do, I'm always looking at, okay, through the lens of, is this healthy? Does this potentially have some risk to it? Can I mitigate this risk by choosing better options, healthier options, organic options, cleaner options, etc.? So decluttering everything out of my clothes, and I decided that my jeans, the next ones I got, I wanted it to be very clean. I wanted them to be just feeling good, that these were going to be some good pair of jeans. And so even myself, I've decluttered everything. And for about 2 years, I didn't even own a pair of jeans, and recently went out and purchased some good jeans. But having lived without them for 2 years, I can absolutely say I know what it's like to declutter everything and then need something and actually need it. Actually truly need it. I did the same thing with my socks. I got some nice organic
sustainable socks that actually give back to the community as well. And I decluttered all of my socks. And once they have a hole in them, I will wear them and wear them and wear them. And then I'm like, okay, I really do need a new pair of socks. So then I'll get a new pair of socks. So you see, you can purchase things that you really don't need, and you can purchase things that you really truly do need and wear them throughout the fullest extent of their lifespan. And that's really about where we want to get to, is are we purchasing from a true desire, which is fine? Are we purchasing through a true need, or are we purchasing just because? Well, just because. And if that's the case too, that's perfectly fine. Let's just make sure that we're being mindful of those decisions and how it is that we are allowing things to enter into our home. So I hope this was helpful. Honestly, guys, if it was helpful, if you found one of those 5 or 6 things that I mentioned was what I recognize in myself or what I see myself doing, I'd love to know about this, because I'd love to know if this is having value for you guys. So please let us know on Instagram. You can definitely leave a comment or a review on the podcast, and I will catch you guys in the next podcast episode.
Hey, did you enjoy today's episode and want to learn more? Come hang out with me on Instagram at spacesorganizedstyled, or dive into one of my courses to really learn how to get organized and stay organized for good. Now, I would greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and be sure to sign up for our newsletter so you are the first to know when the next episode comes out. See you soon.